In this video, we'll look at what it means for an angle to have a measure of 70 degrees. So suppose this angle I have shown here has a measure of 70 degrees. To make sense of this measurement, what we're going to do is center a circle at the vertex of the angle. So I'm going to do my best to draw a circle centered at the vertex of the angle. Not a great circle, but pretend like it's a circle. What we're going to do is look at the arc subtended by the angle's rays along that circle. And when we talk about degree angle measure, what we're looking at is the size of that subtended arc relative to 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. So suppose this tiny little arc is 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. This angle having a measure of 70 degrees means that this red subtended arc here, formed by the angle's rays, is 70 times as large as 1/360th of the circumference. And so that red subtended arc is 70 times as large, or times as long, as 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. So if we compared those sizes, the subtended arc formed by the angle is 70 times as large as 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. Let's see what the implications of this are. So I have the angle shown here again. This angle has a measure of 70 degrees. I'm going to again try to draw a circle centered at the vertex of this angle. And we're going to look at the arc subtended by the angle's rays. See how that compares to 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. So let's suppose that little black arc down there is 1/360th of the circumference of the circle. And let's say that that arc, that 1/360th of the circumference of the circle, is u centimeters long. So maybe we know the length of that fractional part of the circumference. What we saw before is this arc subtended by the angle's rays must be 70 times as large as 1/360th of the circumference, and therefore the length of that subtended arc is 70 times u centimeters. So if we know how long 1/360th is, then the subtended arc is 70 times as long. Let's look at one more twist on this. So again, we have the same angle here. I'll draw a circle centered at the vertex of the angle, and we're looking at the arc subtended by the angle's rays. So let's assume that this arc subtended by the angle's rays is 40 centimeters long. Then let's think about how long 1/360th of the circumference is. So if this little black arc down here represented 1/360th of the circumference, then we know the red arc subtended by the angle's rays must be 70 times as long as that small little unit down there, which tells us that this 40 centimeters must be 70 times as large as however long our unit down here. We'll call that u. So let's say that 1/360th of the circumference is u centimeters long. 40 centimeters must be 70 times as large as u centimeters, which tells us that u must be equal to 40 divided by 70, which is approximately equal to 0.57. So 1/360th of the circumference of the circle is about 0.57 centimeters long, just based on how the subtended arc relates to that unit of angle measure, which is 1/360th of the circumference.